Respected keynote speakers, Arif Hasan Sahab and Ms. Selma Dabbagh, respected sponsors, scholars, authors, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me the greatest pleasure to welcome you to this 15th iteration of the Karachi Literature Festival. I trust you share with me the excitement at being once again part of the ebullient ferment of words, images, ideas, and concepts that we all experience over the next 2.5 days. This festival is a testament to the power of the written word and the vital role it plays in shaping our lives and our thoughts. Last year is said to have been the hottest year on record. The polar ice caps and the Himalayan glaciers are melting. Deadly floods, droughts, and other catastrophic weather phenomena are multiplying. Our cities are becoming more and more bloated and squalid. Our air is fouled with industrial emissions and killer smog. Even our oceans are filling up with plastic and other waste. Thanks to the unwise and wasteful, unsustainable kind of economic and societal policies of yesterday, our today is becoming a losing struggle against overwhelming odds. We need to change our ways. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings me to the theme of this year's Karachi Literature Festival: sustainability. According to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, there are 3 distinct pillars of sustainability: environmental, economic, and social. Environmental sustainability aims to improve human welfare through the protection of natural capital. Economic sustainability aims to improve the standard of living, maintaining high, stable levels of economic growth while improving the quality of life for all. And most vital of all, social sustainability aims to preserve human capital by investing in and creating services that constitute the framework of our society. And what about us here in Pakistan? Where do we stand in terms of social sustainability? We know that our country scores poorly in terms of most social development indices. But there is one particular factor I would like us all to look at: our youth. According to UNDP's National Human Development Survey, Pakistan has the highest proportion of young people. A staggering 64% of the total population of Pakistan is below the age of 30. Pakistan is a young country and will remain that for many years to come. But do we really understand what this means? At the very least, it means that first-time voters will determine election results between now, as we witnessed in the recent elections, until 2048. Let this just sink in. The youth who are right now below the age of 30 will determine the results of elections from now until 2048. That is a reality. To quote Dr. Adil Najam from his essay, Pakistan's moment of youth, that while the space the young occupy in Pakistani society is full of possibilities. You know, we all tell people what our youth is our biggest asset. But in their own words, they often describe themselves as crumbling, contested, and constrained on the one hand, and uneven, unfair, and uncertain on the other. To be young in Pakistan is to be highly agitated and very often angry. The discontent among the youth, ladies and gentlemen, is palpable. They express a fervent desire for change on critical issues affecting them, such as affordability of quality education, the escalating unemployment rate among the educated youth, and the lack of adequate health services. Thus, we must ask ourselves, what are we doing to empower and support the youth of Pakistan? And are our efforts truly sustainable? Friends, history has shown us that when the youth are ignored or marginalized, they demand to be heard. Be it the transformative periods of the French and Russian revolutions or the uprising of the Arab Spring, the youth have sought participation in governance and desired empowerment and representation. Now, with the advent of the digital age and social media, the youth are more empowered than ever before. This generation is very much aware, and their moral fabric is their strength. If we fail to listen to their voices, and if we fail to address their concerns, we can expect a groundswell of unrest and dissatisfaction. To bring about the requisite change is not a simple matter. It requires the acquisition of constantly evolving knowledge. First, for closing the extant gaps that exist in knowledge, and then creatively seeking more knowledge. And seeking more knowledge, first and foremost, requires education. Education stands out as the most potent tool we can offer our youth and equip them with the knowledge and skills necessary to address the challenges ahead. I believe we are all aware of the very serious deficits from which education in our country suffers. There are deficits that are quantitative, with 26 million out-of-school children and too many school dropouts. But there are deficits that are qualitative, such as our primitive teaching methods and untrained teachers, our over-regulated curricula and substandard textbooks. The long and short of the situation is that we simply cannot and must not continue to drag these qualitative and quantitative deficits forward with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the world has now entered a new and unique era of knowledge, an era of immense promise. Everywhere the digital age is ushering in new technologies. Blockchain, 3D printing, genetic engineering, synthetic biology are opening new vistas. And now comes generative AI, artificial intelligence, with its immense new possibilities and perhaps perils. As Managing Director of Oxford University Press, I would like to assert our commitment to embracing technology in the right way so we can improve education for all. We firmly believe that education should always drive technology and not the other way around. As we are entering the age of artificial intelligence, it is imperative that our education systems evolve to meet the demands of this transformative era. We cannot afford to cling to outdated educational practices. Instead, we must embrace innovation and adaptability to ensure that our youth are prepared to thrive in the digital age. Our examination system needs a complete overhaul. Unfortunately, our local assessments reward rote memorization and reproduction of textbook content, and that too substandard textbook content. To create an ecosystem where our youth are equipped with critical thinking and global skills to become innovators of the future, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to announce that OUP is bringing the world-renowned Oxford AQA assessments that are contemporary in concept and based on strong and up-to-date expertise that meets the requirements of students today. We also need to make world-class educational content available to the youth in Pakistan that is free from regulatory obstacles introduced by the single national curriculum and multiple review boards subjecting textbooks to personal bias of myopic reviewers' guillotine. The institution I head, by its very nature, is deeply involved in the process of educating Pakistan. An event like the literary festival we are inaugurating today, the 15th in the city of Karachi, is part and parcel of that process. By bringing together scholars, intellectuals, artists, writers, entertainers, policy makers to engage in reflection and dialogue over many issues, we are creating living examples of critical thinking to place before the people of Pakistan. By testing and sharpening new and challenging ideas, we are encouraging innovative thinking and evolution of thought leadership. By promoting happy associations, we are sustaining our inherent culture of kindness and hospitality and thereby inculcating well-being. Ladies and gentlemen, behind KLF lies its parentage, its heritage. Oxford University Press is the publishing arm of the renowned University of Oxford. OUP has been moving knowledge and learning forward for 500 years. Our resources help people of all ages and all backgrounds take knowledge further. This unique Oxford heritage is a special distinction of the Karachi Literature Festival. Before I close, I would like to acknowledge our sponsors who have helped make this festival possible, especially Habib Bank Limited, our lead sponsor for their generous support, our co-sponsors, Getz Pharma, Neo Paints, EBM, the British Council, the US Consulate and Lincoln's Corner, the Consulate General of the Federal Republic of Germany, Goethe Institute, Oxford AQA, NBP Funds, UBL Funds, and Tapal Tea. A special thanks to SMS Security and SI Global for continuing to partner with us. A very big thank you to members of the Advisory Committee whose guidance is seminal to this festival. And thank you, everyone, for joining us for the inauguration of the 15th Karachi Literature Festival. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Arshad. Very thought-provoking speech. I hope somebody is listening in the power corridors, your ideas. But let's not underestimate a youth. We have seen in recent past, during the elections, how beautifully they participated in the election, they played their role. The problem is they don't have proper guidance. Now I'll invite a guest of honor, His Excellency Conrad Treville, Consul General of the United States of America, to kindly come and express his views. Consul General, the floor is yours.
Right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, authors and literary enthusiasts. I'm really honored to be here today. It's the 15th Annual Karachi Literature Festival. We're very proud sponsors in the consulate of this event. I've been a diplomat for a long time. I've spoken at a lot of festivals. I've opened jazz festivals and bluegrass and film, even a few classic car rallies. I've never done a literature festival, and it's a real privilege to get to do it here in Karachi, this fascinating, complex, cosmopolitan city. The range and depth of intellectual endeavor from people I've met in Pakistan that will be on display over the next few days is world-class. It promises to challenge all of us as it needs to. That intellectual depth is very succinctly captured in the theme, sustainability, words changing mindsets. Our focus is on how the written word has transformative power to reshape minds and inspire action towards a more sustainable future. Creating that future will challenge us in every facet of our lives, the environment, our economy, education, and beyond. And how we perceive this challenge will be deeply influenced by the words we read, write, and share, and most importantly, by how those words spur us into action. And that's what literature does. It has the ability to catalyze change, illuminate the path towards a more sustainable future. Now, I am sitting in front of representatives of two of the greatest literary nations in the world, in Germany and France. And I acknowledge that and certainly respect that. But even in the United States, we have strong literary traditions. Literature and poetry have played a pivotal role in strengthening our society and democracy, promoting diverse voices. Everything from Thomas Paine's pamphlet, Common Sense, which ignited the American Revolution and advocated for democratic principles. Mark Twain used satire and wit to critique societal injustices. Walt Whitman's poetry celebrated the diversity and the resilience of the American people. And just thinking about this conference's theme, it was a book that launched the modern environmental movement in the United States. Silent Spring by activist Rachel Carson in 1962. And having just toured the halls and seen several children's bookstores over there, I'm also reminded that it was a children's book, The Lorax by Dr. Seuss in 1971, that gave millions of children their first sense, their first understanding of the need to protect the environment. The Lorax is the one who said, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not." Literature as a mindset-changing institution is still vibrant today. I can think of Ta-Nehisi Coates highlighting the Black experience in the United States, making an argument for reparations, or Celeste Ng's latest novel that highlights the role of poetry in sharing and preserving collective memories. We even have Louise Erdrich, a Native American author, despite her German-sounding name, who features Native American characters and settings. Each of these authors has expanded the collective consciousness of US society, perhaps touched also global society, with new and different voices, perspectives, and experiences. In a word, they have changed mindsets. As I reflect on this and thinking about what we are going to do here at the conference, I'm reminded of the remarkable words of one more American poet, Amanda Gorman, whose stirring poetry captivated the world, if you perhaps remember, during the 2021 US presidential inauguration. "For there is always light if we're only brave enough to see it, if we're only brave enough to be it." Her words serve as a beacon of hope and a testament to the transformative power of language. So I mentioned Amanda Gorman, a young poet, a word magician, as a clever segue into what I'm now delighted to do, which is introduce the festival participant sponsored by the US Consulate, who is somewhere out here in the audience, Michael Sorelli. Where are you, Michael? There he is over there. There we are. Okay. He too is a renowned poet, a wordsmith, and the founder of the first ever National Youth Poet Laureate program in the United States. Amanda Gorman was the 2017 National Youth Poet Laureate. He is now bringing the first ever National Youth Poet Laureate program to Pakistan. I encourage you all to attend Michael's sessions tomorrow and Sunday. I know I'm looking forward to hearing the poetry sessions that he is leading with young Karachi poets tomorrow. Michael's presence is just one example of how we here in the U.S. Mission in Pakistan support the role that literature plays in a society. We also do capacity building and build exchange programs and opportunities for Pakistani writers. Recently, one of KLF's own speakers, Safina Danish Elahi, participated in the Iowa Writers Program. I don't know if she's here right now, but if she is, she'll raise her hand. It's a 10-week residency program that brings together authors from all over the world to read and write and translate and talk to each other and study and learn together in a vibrant literary and academic community. And that work doesn't end once they leave the United States. They bring their knowledge and passion back to their home country. And her knowledge and passion from that experience, among many other things, will be on display tomorrow at 3:30 when Safina discusses her newest book, The Idle Stance of the Tippler Pigeon. So many of you will spend the next 72 hours diving in and out of sessions, readings, and other events. While you're here, if I have one last plug, I invite you to visit our pop-up Lincoln Corner right over there. Our Lincoln Corner team, these are American spaces. We can demonstrate to you some of the equipment and resources that we have in our Lincoln Corners around Karachi and around Pakistan that are available free of charge to young people, young people who feel old, and old people who want to feel young again. Every day, 19 Lincoln Corners across Pakistan offer this kind of access, including to many famous American authors. You will find John Steinbeck, Harper Lee, Michelle Obama, and others in the Lincoln Corner. And I hope you take advantage of these resources to expand your own knowledge, maybe think about changing your own mindset, and tell others about the opportunity. In closing, just to say that this festival really offers a unique platform for meaningful discussions on these vital issues to chart a course towards a more sustainable and inclusive world. I don't really think I need to do this, but I encourage you, of course, to just immerse yourselves in the thought-provoking sessions curated by the KLF, explore these literary landscapes that showcase sustainability's many dimensions, and discover how words can contribute to a more sustainable future. Enjoy the festival. May it inspire us all to greater action, greater contributions to our own communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We have much to gain from the ideas expressed by you. And of course, we are a nation of writers and poets. We have seen Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Faraz, Iqbal. So obviously, our youth looks towards them for guidance, for learning poetry and other things. But thank you so much for your ideas. Now I'll request His Excellency, Dr. Rodiger Lotz, Consul General of Republic of Germany, to kindly come and express his views. Go on.
Distinguished guests, dear organizers, it's wonderful to be here at the 15th Karachi Literature Festival. And it's wonderful that this festival has become really such a fixed date in the yearly calendar of Karachi and Pakistan. I remember last year when I was relatively new in Karachi, I was at some private event linked to the Literature Festival, and I think I met 3 Booker Prize winners, and I thought, where in the world can you get to a private meeting you're invited to and meet 3 Booker Prize winners? So yes, this festival brings international and Pakistani writers together and offers us that great opportunity to be in touch with them. Now the core of this event obviously is literature, and in the relations between Pakistan and Germany, literature of course has always played quite a big role, starting from Iqbal, who was studying in Germany and had very big admiration for Goethe. So it starts really more than 100 years ago. Literature, and I think this festival is first and foremost about literature. Now, what can I tell you about literature that you don't know anyway? But yes, literature in its core has the capacity to express emotions and feelings, to broaden the scope of our perspective on our lives, to add to reality by exploring our wishes, our fears, our anxieties, our hopes, our needs, our desires as humans. And by doing so, literature explains reality often in a far better way than mere statistics or rational analysis ever could do. I am therefore, and I'm sure you are as well, very curious to hear what our guests have to say, to listen to them, and we are very proud that we also are sponsors of that event. And as the title, the headline of this event indicates, by doing so, words will change mindsets, words can change reality, words can change how we perceive the world, and eventually words will influence our ideas, our actions, and our attempts to change the world. Now, there have been a number of German philosophers who, with their words, changed the world quite a bit. Whether to the better or not is up to you to decide, but let me leave it with that. Now, in this world, we are confronted with so many challenges. We are confronted with armed aggression, under which tens of thousands of people, innocent civilians, suffer. We are facing global poverty, misery, deprivation in many parts of the world, and we are facing the ongoing environmental destruction of this planet, as was mentioned before, all the challenges that can be summed up in that expression of sustainability. Waste and garbage, global warming, and many other challenges. These are global challenges, and we are facing them all together. And the other challenges mentioned, the whole transformation to artificial intelligence, what does that mean? There are big chances, but there are high risks. How do we deal with them? How do we provide to our youth a world that is livable? These are very difficult, very complex, but so important questions. And for all this, words are needed to address these issues. We need literature. We need words to explore, to explain, and words to change, as the headline says, words to change mindsets in order to help us transforming perceptions, which is necessary to address these challenges. And I do think that we should be open to listen to words, even if we don't always like the words, because that is a prerequisite to find solutions which are inclusive and enable us to take as many people of the global community as necessary and as possible with us. But besides all of that, always remains the simple joy of literature and the capacity of literature to provide hope. And you probably know the sentence or the word, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. It's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness. And I wish you all, I wish us all that during these days of the festivals, many candles of hopes will be lit here. And I wish you a very insightful and interesting festival over the next days. Thank you very much.
Most insightful speech by Your Excellency. And you rightly pointed out that we should not be burning a candle, but we should be lighting a candle. So I remember the Pakistani poet once said, "Apne hisse ki shamma jalate jao." So I think we have some common meanings and common thoughts and common sight. Now I'll request His Excellency Alexis Shatatensky, Consul General of France, to kindly come and express his view. Sir, the floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum. Dear Arshad Husain of Oxford University Press, Pakistan, Excellencies, dear colleagues, respected keynote speakers, respected sponsors, scholars, authors, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor for me as the Consul General of France here in Karachi to address this distinguished audience. It is already my second year here as I'm living here permanently in Karachi. I've been a regular visitor to Pakistan over the last 40 years or so, but I live here already a year and a half, so it's not my first literary festival, but so I'm old enough here in this city to know, and I know as a fact, that the Karachi Literature Festival is the cultural event, the intellectual event not to be missed in this city, and on a par with the Lahore Literary Festival in Pakistan. Actually, I think the Karachi one is even older. This year, we're going to have a French writer. It's a she, it's a lady, arriving from afar. She hasn't arrived yet, but she's on her way. I know that for sure because I talked to her earlier today. She lives in Istanbul, actually. It's a fantastic, very beautiful city. And she will be participating in this Karachi Literary Festival, which makes me, as a representative of France, very proud. She's a fantastic individual, a French national, of course, but we're all of different backgrounds. So her name is Kenizeh Mourad. She happens to be the granddaughter, I think, of one of the last Ottoman sultans, Murad V. But she was born in Paris, so she's, in fact, a French citizen. And she knows Pakistan quite well, since her father was from the subcontinent. Her father was a Maharaja or Raja from Lucknow. So she's been around, and she has relatives, of course, not just in India, but also in Pakistan. She's visiting, a regular visitor. I'm very glad that she can take part in this literary festival, I think for the first time today. Actually, not today, tomorrow, but I'll come back to that. Kenizeh Mourad de Kotwara, that's her full name, is a former journalist. She used to work with the Nouvel Observateur in France, covering international affairs, including the Middle East, the Iranian Revolution, the war in Lebanon, and many other events, until she turned to literature in the 1980s. And she has published many books, which were all bestsellers in my country when they came out. Among them, it's worthwhile noticing I'm taking the English translation, so it's Regards from the Dead Princess, that came out in France 1987, the English translation 1989. The Memoirs of an Ottoman Princess was then republishing in 2001 by Alhambra. Les Jardins de Badalpour, I think was in 98, I'm not sure it was translated into English. And also Voices of the Palestine-Israel conflict, which may be worth reading again in the light of the very unfortunate and tragic events happening now in Gaza. And she wrote also about Pakistan, le pays des purs, the land of the pures, and also a very interesting book that's called In the City of Silver and Gold, the story of Begum Hazrat Mahal, that was published in 2013 in its English translation, which I really recommend you to read because it will, well, it's the story of the subcontinent, so many of you will recognize yourself in the book. So Kenizé is an officier, so she's earned an award from the French Republic. She's an officier des arts et des lettres. She will take part in a panel called Historical Fiction that will be tomorrow night, 7:15 p.m. I think it's in the, which room is that? I'm going to tell you. It's in the Aquarius Hall, that's over there. So I really encourage you not to miss her presentation. She'll be joined by a distinguished Pakistan writer named Bina Shah. She's also a holder of the Chevalier des Arts et des Lettres. And Bina is a former president of Alliance Française in Karachi, 2016-2019. So it should be a fascinating conversation. I know both individuals, so I encourage you not to miss it. Saturday, tomorrow, 7:15 p.m., Aquarius Hall. But I know there will be many other very interesting and captivating speakers addressing very different topics pertaining to geopolitics, the environment, economics, and many other. So this all contributes making Karachi Literary Festival a movable feast, as Hemingway would put it. And I wish you all interesting and inspiring discussions, because what sustainability are we talking about if we do not remember who we are, where we come from, and where we're heading for? I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you 2-3 very interesting days. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for sharing your views. Now I would like to request Mr. Ali Habib, Chief Marketing and Communication Officer, Habib Bank Limited, to kindly come and express his views, one of our sponsors. Thank you. Thank you. Floor is yours.
Assalamu alaikum ji, distinguished guests of the 15th Karachi Literature Festival, excellencies, authors, members of the media, nominated authors and judges. It's great to be here this evening. And as we've been saying the 15th Karachi Literature Festival without really pausing on the word 15th. 15 saal ek bahut lamba arsa hota hai for any idea to be created from scratch and then to be sustained. We know a lot about great ideas, but how many great ideas persist over 15 years, year upon year? And in a country like Pakistan, which is supposedly renowned for its unpredictability, to have something as consistent as the Karachi Literature Festival in a city which supposedly is also renowned for its unpredictability, I think speaks a lot about the passion of the people who are behind this idea and the tenacity with which they have pursued it. It's a lot about perseverance. And I think we all need to, at this point in time, give a big round of applause to the organizers of the Karachi Literature Festival over the last 15 years. The need for a cultural festival like Karachi Literature Festival, I think, has never been more apparent in times like these. I was reading somebody the other day that we are living in a world, and I think that's true for the world. It was actually not an observation about Pakistan. It was an observation about the US in the New York Times by the columnist David Brooks. And he said that the US society, and what I think he said about the US society, I think is pretty apt for Pakistan society, and I think many societies around the world. The society that we live in right now is, on one hand, over-politicized, but on the other hand, under-cultured, under-moralized and under-spiritualized. And I think what a literature festival does is, and the reason this is so, because we are all living in a whirlwind of information. We are bombarded by competitive narratives and ideologies. We do not know what is right for wrong. Through this cacophony of sound and fury, I think what a literature festival does is it brings us close to books. And what do books do? They give us what again someone says, emotional wisdom. They also enrich our perspectives. And when you get emotional wisdom and when you get enriched perspective, you develop a better understanding as to why people behave, how they behave, and how you can regulate your own behavior in the light of what the books and those depth of human understanding tells you. So I think at this point in time, an endeavor like Karachi Literature Festival, in a city like Karachi, in a country like Pakistan, which is over-politicized for all the wrong reasons, I think is a shot in the arm. And I think we need to really appreciate the timing of this literature festival, especially this year, given what we see happening all around us. Someone asked me the other day, what does a bank like HBL have to do with a literature festival? And I actually said that, why don't you extend that question and say, what does a bank like HBL have to do with a cricket league called PSL, which starts tomorrow in Lahore? And maybe you can also go back and say, what does a bank like HBL have to do with esports, gaming, that we partnered ourselves yesterday in Karachi? Gaming, literature festival, cricket series. What do these things have common? Not much. What do these things have common with banking? Nothing. So in one respect, HBL has got nothing to do with being part of the literature festival. But on the other hand, we've got everything to be part of the literature festival. As a bank that has been there for the last 80 years, we are a part of the society. And the bank believes that for us to thrive, we need to be living in a dynamic society. Also, when you say 80 years, this is a bank that does not think of the today. It does not think of tomorrow. It thinks of 2050. 26 years from now, where would Pakistan be? What sort of a place would Pakistan be like? What sort of a place would HBL like to be operating in? And above all, what can HBL, the bank as a corporate entity, which employs roughly 25,000 people, serves over 36 million customers, what we can do to play our part in ensuring that the society that the Pakistanis who are currently under 30, as Arshad pointed out, which is the majority of the Pakistanis, will inherit. What sort of Pakistan would we leave for those people in 2050? And I think initiatives like the Karachi Literature Festival or the PSL League, which happens tomorrow in Lahore, HBL, PSL, or the sporting games, allows us to engage with the youth of Pakistan, to give them an opportunity and hope through this platform. So the KLF is not just about literature, but I think it's a platform for hope. And that's how we should really look at it. And I would also really urge the Oxford University Press to really think about renaming the Karachi Literature Festival. Because I think your remit has gone beyond literature. You talk about poetry, you talk about art, you talk about movies. You have got right behind you HBL art exhibitions there. It's a public art exhibition. You can go there and look at the masterpieces that HBL has in its collection, because we believe in public interaction with art. And just behind that is the children art extravaganza that we have put up for the next 2 years. So when you look at all of that stuff, Arshad, I think you should really call it the Karachi Cultural Festival, because I think you've really gone beyond literature. So that's the sort of, that's the sort of role that Karachi Literature Festival is playing, and that's the kind of association the HBL has in ensuring that we go ahead and do that. HBL believes in the long run, and I think I'd like to conclude by saying that I think all of us who are here today, whether as authors, dignitaries, keynote speakers, youngsters, everyone who's around here. I think we need to think of what our role is when we leave the next 3 days and say, when someone asks you, what did you do? Where were you for the last 3 days? And I think I'd like to quote a couplet from Faiz Ahmad Faiz, and I think that properly sums up very well as to what we were doing in the last 3 days. When you go back home, and you probably can say, हम परवरिश लौहो कलम करते रहेंगे, जो दिल पे गुजरती है, वो रकम करते रहेंगे. I will keep on cherishing the tablet and the pen. I'll go on writing down what passes over the heart. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया. Have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ali Habib, for your encouragement and support for the Literature Festival, and really a good suggestion. From a literature festival to a cultural festival, it's such a big now on the canvas. So let's hope Arshad will give it a thought. Thank you. And now I'll request, it's a turn of our keynote speakers. I'll request Mr. Arif Hasan, architect, planner, researcher, and writer, who needs no introduction as the benefactor of the city. I will not be wrong if I say to the nation that he is the modern-day Sir Gangaram of the city. So please give him a good hand, a clap. Thank you, sir. The floor is yours.
If you allow me, I'll speak from here.
Yes,
Arshad Sahab, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, I will try and put down thoughts both on words and on sustainability. The theme on sustainability and words is an extremely powerful theme. Sustainability is essential for our world to survive, and the power of words, without which its survival is difficult, if not impossible. Words, however, it has to be realized, is a double-edged sword. They can be used for the good of the planet and its inhabitants. They can also be used to promote genocide and ethnic violence, as we are experiencing it in our world today. Words are even more important due to the existence of social media, artificial intelligence, and emerging new technologies which can distort the meaning of the words, control the media, and promote misinformation, which again is happening in a big world, in the world in which we live today. Yet festivals like KLF and lectures and books can also produce a new world of hope, scientific knowledge, and discourse of new ideas and structures of thinking for the betterment of mankind and for love and understanding. Because they have the concept of sustainability, and this cannot be done, and this is very important, done without the promotion of young people, young ideas, young expression, young poetry, young writing. If I go back, I began my architectural practice more than 50 years ago. At that time, many words commonly used today simply did not exist. And many institutions that you mentioned today also did not exist. At that time, there was no concept of community organizations, of NGOs, and of civil society. And sometimes I wish these concepts had never come, but that's another story. And these are powerful entities today that I have mentioned. They emerged after the structural adjustment program that was imposed on us by the powers that be that control the economy of the world, and they did us no favor. Sustainability did not exist either at that time, although it was built into report writing as repercussions of projects and policy. But then, Gro Harlem Brundtland, a Norwegian prime minister, wrote the book called Our Common Future. This was in 1983. And his words became a subject of considerable controversy, debate, and global academia and workshops and conferences picked up this theme. She argued that at the rate at which we were consuming natural resources, we would have no resources left to consume, and civilization, as we know it, would die. And so would, in the long run, our planet. It took a long-term time for a thesis to be taken seriously. Finally, in 1987, the United Nations picked up her ideas and built programs, debates, discussions around it. So, a lot of new words and concepts emerged, such as, and sustainability was one of them. Climate change was another. Green economy was another. Umbrella species was yet another. And everything, and above everything, came the concept of well-being. Because well-being became a part and parcel of UN programs and research. Without Mrs. Brundtland's words, this would never have happened. Well-being itself was a new concept, which included physical, social, and economic happiness. Long way to go for that. I have been teaching for a long time, since 1978. And when we teach the social and physical sciences, we define sustainability as the ability to develop and exist without overtly depleting natural resources for the future generation. I think a better definition would be that sustainability is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. For this to be workable, we would need to always have more than we need at any given time. We would naturally have to cut down on our consumption, and that is not an easy thing to do, as the world economy is built around a capitalist model of production and consumption, which go hand in hand, and with neoliberalism, national boundaries no longer matter in this process. I think this is important. Let me take an example. How big nexus in the economic world control our lives. We talk frequently today about the depletion of the ozone layer. This layer in our atmosphere prevents ultraviolet rays from reaching the Earth and protects humans, animals, and plant life from extinction. Its depletion raises the temperature of the Earth, and this in turn creates changes in weather patterns. This process we call global warming and its repercussions as climate change. The ozone layer is depleted as a result of carbon monoxide and related gases, which are produced by human activity, such as automobiles, air conditioners, aircraft, generation of energy itself. It's a long list. And for most of this, we use fossil fuels, which we are rapidly running out of. So, and yet we are not really managing to replace these fossil fuels by any systematic use of non-fossil fuels. Now, one of the major consumption of fossil fuels is automobiles, and a strong nexus of petroleum, automobile, and banking, which is a global association of these three very powerful entities, prevents us from really cutting down on fossil fuels. And let me give you some examples. In 2018, Karachi registered 903 vehicles per day. Bombay at that time, Delhi, sorry, registered 1440 vehicles per day. Bangkok registered 1,750 vehicles per day. About 92% of these ran on fossil fuels. Most of these vehicles were purchased through bank loans. And the oil lobby is a major beneficiary of this, and so is the road lobby a beneficiary of this. So this nexus of very powerful entities determines the future of your planet unless you can somehow or the other negotiate an alternative arrangement with them. Raising the importance of sustainability for the planet, the United Nations has put together a list of 17 sustainable goals that countries have to comply with until 2030. I have been a member and a co-chair of the Union of International Architects work on sustainability for the health system. And I can tell you that of these 17 goals, almost each one of them requires justice and equity for compliance. If you don't have justice and equity, the compliance cannot be there along with education and health. And all this is available more in the developed countries and less in the developing ones. And we are a developing country, not a development one. There are two ways to approach the issue for the purpose of this talk. One is to look at the larger global repercussions of unplanned and excessive use of resources. The other is to rely on this method has to rely on scientific research and long-term repercussions. The second way is to identify what societies, communities can do to prevent the damage that projects can cause and how that damage can be dealt with at the local level. This is something that all of you can do. It does not require any research into scientific research. If harmful processes and projects are continued, we will most likely run out of fossil fuels. A huge number of animal species will become extinct, and the atmosphere will be irreparably damaged. There are a number of local issues that Karachiites face, which they can fight against or for by understanding these issues. One is flooding, which, because of extensive land reclamation, the level of the outfalls to the sea at high tide in the monsoon season are higher than the level of the ocean. To take care of this, 7,000 houses in the drainage channels of the city have been demolished, making 12,300 families homeless, jobless, and their children without schools, education, and health. And still the city continues to flood. Such a terrible sacrifice to poverty has been the cause of so much loss of homes. Also, an expressway through fields, archaeological sites, villages, forests is being built, opening land for real estate development, which in Karachi's master plans is a protected green area. In addition, recent developments have taken place in Karachi, where land which was used by children of all ages for playing cricket and football has been taken, and for the older generation to feed birds has been taken over for real estate development as well. So the children now play on the streets and the police harasses them. There was a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Pakistan who ordered the removal of 9,000 hawkers from the pavements of the city, resulting in the loss of 5 crore rupees per day to them and the economy that serves them, leading to poverty and homelessness. The government of Sindh is developing power through the use of coal, which will leave thousands of acres of land barren for the future and will result in producing polluted air. I can go on, the list is endless. How do you deal with this? I don't think you can deal with this technically. I don't think you can deal with this through preaching. What you really require is a major change in culture, in the organizational culture of the state, its entities, and, in addition, the elite of this country. To address some of these problems, the government has set up the environmental impact assessment process for projects, whereby public hearings are held with civil society and other groups before implementation. However, civil society organizations complain that these proceedings and their results are fixed by politicians and bureaucrats even before the environmental impact assessments takes place. To deal with this aspect, government environmental tribunals are required, without whom Pakistan-related case law cannot be developed. All members of society should and can take place in these deliberations because the process for it exists. You know, whenever there are displacements of people, whenever settlements are destroyed, the people's main concern is the education of their children. For instance, the last demolitions that took place in November and December last year, about 3,000 children lost their schooling. Before that, I once went to a very well-known bureaucrat and told him that about 7,000 children had lost their schooling, and out of which a sizable number had not been able to take their metric exams and were not able to take their inter exams. He was very upset at this. And then he came up with a solution. He said, what we should now do is to float a notification that no eviction is going to take place before the final examinations at the schools. So that was the solution. So what can I say? All I can say is, because of my long association with the city, its problems, that the situation that we see and which I have described is because there is a strong urban anti-poor bias in planning and policy making, which also feeds into academia through the class structure and laws which we have inherited from our colonial masters as we live on the ruins of the empire. Words are required to express this, without which reform and accommodation of change, which is enormous, social change has taken place. Accommodation of change is not possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Arif Hasan Saab. It was a very thought-provoking speech. Thank you once again. I would like to ask Selma Dabbagh. Selma has a long list of appreciation and awards. Selma is a British-Palestinian writer of fiction. Her novel, Out of It, won the Premier Opera Plateau 2019. Her radio play, The Brick, was produced by BBC Radio 4 in 2014. Selma has also judged for the Society of Authors McKittrick Prize and has also worked in TV, film, and theatrical productions. Selma, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'd firstly like to thank the organizers of the Karachi Literature Festival for inviting me here. It's my third visit to Pakistan, and I hope it won't be my last. It's very good to be here and to feel the solidarity and support of Pakistan for the Palestinians, which stretches deep into the psyche and the poetry of this country. I'm addressing you today as we move into a world, thank you, that has by been declared quite rightly as being unsustainable if it continues on its current trajectory. I will try to persuade you and myself through the process of writing and the use of words that mindsets can be changed and another world is possible. It is no small task. I'm a woman in a country that is not my own. I'm a British Palestinian whose heritage straddles both quite absolutely the colonial and the anti-colonial. My English grandfather was in the British Marines. My other grandfather was actively resisted the British in Palestine and was repeatedly imprisoned by them. To stand in front of you as a Palestinian writer when we are witnessing the most cataclysmically brutal of assaults against the young, encaged people in Gaza is daunting. It feels a little like standing in a pool of blood in pale kid-skin shoes. Am I to detract you from the blood on my feet or to say, look down at what is seeping through my soles? I was asked recently whether at times like this there is no time for literary sensibilities, in the way that Adorno declared after Auschwitz that there was no longer any time for poetry. There is no fitting response to what is going on other than with every means possible we have to call for a ceasefire now. I am not alone in feeling that the months since October have indelibly marked my emotional and intellectual framework. I have become extremely intolerant of those who have remained silent, but it feels ingracious to indulge in the luxury of venting my anger when many of those trapped now in Rafah, with the Israeli army lining up their tanks against them, are giving, when the opportunity arises, the most humane, measured, and dignified accounts of their situation to the media, despite their fears, despite their losses, and despite their hunger. Instead of talking about words, I could have just, of course, just read you a list of numbers. Numbers, statistics have limitations, but let's just try some. So 3 is the equivalent number of atomic bombs to the amount of explosives that have been dropped on Gaza in recent months. 3 is the number of years that it would take to remove the 800,000 metric tons of debris that have been created by bombing to date. 12 is the number of universities in Gaza that have been bombed and destroyed. That's all of them. 13 is the number of Palestinian libraries destroyed, including ancient manuscripts. 14, and we've been talking about what a young population it is here in Pakistan, 14 is, or younger, is 40% of the population of Gaza. 17 is the number of years Gaza has been under siege by land, sea, or air, and 28 is the number of kilograms of explosives per capita of the population that has been dropped on Gaza. 32, the number of attacked hospitals. 75, the number of years since the Nakba, which expelled my father and his family and 750 others. And 28,000, the number of Palestinians killed. I can read these numbers, but beside the fact that you can access them in the papers or online, these numbers swell into larger figures every day. These are also not figures that should be viewed in isolation, but as the writer Nikki Kaduri noted in a recent piece, a list of rapid-fire statistics using the comma or the breath or the pause to separate them fails to convey the level of individual pain that is being suffered at present. He writes, the Palestinian that is trapped underneath the rubble is also the Palestinian that is injured. It is also the Palestinian who is dying of hunger and thirst. It is also, I would add, the Palestinian who has lost family members, colleagues, friends, the Palestinians who cannot find a hospital to treat their wounds, cannot continue their education, or recover possessions or bodies from the rubble. A number alone given for buildings or debris cannot convey the richness of the Byzantine mosaics destroyed, or the Umayyad mosques, or one of the oldest, the third oldest church in the world, let alone the connection of individuals to their photograph albums and their letters. The pain that these numbers encapsulate is at risk of becoming more evasive the longer that there is no ceasefire, the more the world acclimatizes to the systematic cruelty of the Israeli government, its war cabinet, its army, and regrettably, deplorably, its media, artists, and intellectual class, who, according to the opinion polls, there are few in Israel who have remained as exceptional exceptions speaking out. And to those who have done so in Israel, I really salute them. It is not an easy place to be. I would personally rather speak about words than numbers. I have a really bad memory for numbers. But for me, images created by words and emotive narratives can be sustained within me forever. Numbers can create a basic impression, a sense of the quantum, of extent, of gravity, but they cannot, for example, convey the interiority of a character, its rational and emotional composition in the way that words can. Our brains, according to a neuroscientist, Antonio Damasio, work more with images than words, with emotion, often deemed to be the enemy of rationality, is actually able to assist with the process of holding in mind the multiple facts that must be considered in order to reach a decision. So emotion is critical in decision making. So with emotion, images, and words, the creation of images in the mind that remain in the memory, this is the work of the writer. The creation of narratives or tales that influence the behavior and outlook of the reader, that's the domain that the fiction writer resides in. An aim can be to wake up the reader from sleepwalking through life. Sometimes it can be to turn the reader into a more engaged, committed citizen of this world. A simple example, to take an American writer. As a young teenager, I read the work of F. Scott Fitzgerald. And there's a short story where two men are contrasted. One who is poor, and he works flat out, trying to meet a deadline, okay? And he's desperate to do this project. The other man is rich, and he spends most of his time pampering himself and telling the poor man to, calm down. Needless to say, it is the rich man who ends up having the heart attack, and the poor man who ends up successful and happy. That story has been, rightly or wrongly, a guiding example in my own attitude to life, of setting goals to guide myself forward, of working towards an idea of usefulness and productivity that I rarely had cause to question. Okay, so if writing can provide life's lessons, there's nothing new in saying that. This is the most literal way of considering how words can change minds, by seeing them as moral fables with a tale to tell, okay? But more challenging is the declaration of James Joyce, the Irish writer, that the writer must forge in the smithy of their soul the uncreated consciousness of their race. Now that is a particularly mammoth task, particularly when we turn back to the Palestinians, around whom I look to, not just as a cause for sympathy or fury, as much as both these responses are entirely legitimate, but as inspiration and points of learning for the new century that we are almost a quarter of a way through. In demonstrations in London, we chant, in our tens, in our millions, we are all Palestinians. To me, being Palestinian is an internationalist, inclusivist outlook on the world, taking the less empowered or represented as a starting point for societal concern. Edward Saeed, friend of Pakistani poets, writers, and thinkers, Ahmad Faiz and Iqbal Ahmad, was one of the last century's most influential thinkers, situating the nature of what it means to be Palestinian in post-colonial thinking. The Palestinian writer Fawaz Turki once said the following: If the Palestinian revolution is armed with a philosophy at all, it is armed with the anti-determinist vision of the open-endedness of the future. Now, I love that. I love the idea that it's open, it's up to grabs. We cannot think of anything as being irreversible. And I would like to mine away in the smithy of our collective souls what we can learn from the Palestinian resistance and the revolution, for the want of a better term. I've collected my thoughts in this respect on inspiring points into three groupings, which, you know, there are others I could have included. One is the issue of authenticity, the second is justice, and the third is a sense of beauty. They rely solely on distinctions that we all make within ourselves. We can make these intuitively, independently of how much we're educated. We can assess these things. So if I start with authenticity, the British poet W.H. Auden said that there's one evil that should never be passed over in silence, but should continue to be attacked, and that is the corruption of language. Since its earliest conception in the late 19th century, the Zionist settler colonial project has been imbued with language that distorts with malevolent intent. One example is to refer to the land of Palestine as being an empty land, which when it knew that it was densely populated. Saying it was empty was to persuade the powers, financial, military, ideological, that people of different value systems or skin colors did not count. The duplicity of language revealed malevolency of intention as well. It's not empty yet, but it will be. We will make it empty, was the thing that they were trying to say. It won't matter because they are just Arabs. Since October the 7th, a host of words are at risk of being voided or hollowed of their meaning when used by the Israeli government. Words such as anti-Semitism, self-defense, national security, the notion of having an army with a degree of morality or self-control attached to it. Democracy, as a supposed beacon of liberation, is now associated with one of the bloodiest military onslaughts of decades. Palestinians in the main have had no need for false claims, and their voices, many highly qualified, multilingual, calm, and precise, present the truth on the ground. They do not casually adopt the language of murder, hate speech, racism, or anti-Semitism. They call for a ceasefire, for justice and international law. The younger generations who steer away from the editorially controlled main media channels in the West increasingly turn to social media, and I have been told that 70% of TikTok content watched and circulated on the so-called conflict is to watch these Palestinian commentators. We all have what Ernest Hemingway, another American writer, referred to as a shit detector. He used that term in reference to being able to identify when his writing worked or didn't work. But it is being used now in terms of our ways of looking at the media, of listening to the authenticity of speeches being made and the value of their language, because there are choices now. And it is at this point of authenticity that the role of the poet and the writer is most critical. It is what makes the profession's language so threatening to the monolithic propaganda of military might, because it conveys images that remain. The images collate collective emotion around them. They galvanize. They build solidarity. They work when corrupted language does nothing but putrefy the mouths of its speakers. It is for this reason that a slightly built, scrupulously polite professor of literature and poetry, Rafiq al-Arir, was assassinated in his apartment on December the 7th after receiving multiple threats from the Israeli army. It was for this reason that the novelist Hasan Kanafani was assassinated in Beirut in a car bomb in 1972 by the same perpetrators. So my next point is justice. So authenticity, justice. Anyone who has spent any time around children will know how deeply wired humans are to the sense of what is fair. those are sometimes the first words that come out of a toddler, complaining about fairness and justice. With justice comes the law. Although my faith in democracy is not what it once was, for in the UK, when it comes to Palestine at the moment, I might as well be living in a one-party state. But my faith in the law, which as a former student of critical legal studies, I used to be highly skeptical of, has increased. Law as words supported by adjudicative processes, agency to access it, professionals to present and rule it, can change lives directly, peaceably, irrevocably. My own life and my own ability to be as educated as I am, to work protected by sex discrimination laws, to be maintained by the father of my children after divorce is all dependent on laws hard fought for by women's movements and by individual legal brains, working sometimes with protest and direct action when it came to the suffragettes, sometimes quietly, conscientiously, with very little fuss, as is the case of Baroness Belinda Hale, the former head of the Supreme Court of the UK. There has been a shift, though, globally, to go from the domestic UK to go globally. There's been a shift in recent years as to who international law is for and who is calling for it now. Once viewed skeptically, when I worked in Cairo with human rights organizations, it was viewed very skeptically as cultural imperialism from the north. Human rights, humanitarian and international criminal law are now being called for by the global south. Most notably, and I will speak more of this on my panel tomorrow and the day after, by the International Court of Justice case of January, taken by South Africa against Israel, regarding a call for emergency measures given by the risk of genocide by Israel. The court ruled against Israel with an almost unanimous majority. Thank you. It deserves applause. It was incredible what they did. Thank you. International courts are subject to political influence, that cannot be doubted, but they can also work. But they need love, they need respect, they need attention, they need support to create a stable world order. Without international law, which has been developed since the 1600s, and I agree it's flawed, it's got colonial parts to it, but without it, I really cannot see a way forward for this world. Our representatives call, just a word about Palestinian human rights organizations, which have been under attack for decades now, are some of the strongest in the world, and they call both for a ceasefire and for the application of international law. On the last point, and I know I've been talking for a long time, forgive me, I really had a lot I wanted to say to you today, is the last point is on beauty, and that is of distinguishing the attractive from the repulsive. And I'm not talking here about Western beauty standards, which can be viewed as a different form of evil, as Afro-American writer Toni Morrison writes about. I'm speaking here about awe-inspiring beauty, behavior as a form of beauty, about composure and compassion in the darkest of times. There are few, I would say, who would view the sight, as I did yesterday morning on Al Jazeera, of the Israeli army ordering the 8,000 people huddling in the Nasser hospital to get out with the words, "Evacuate, you animals," as being anything other than repulsive. The immorality of the leaked Telegram snuff videos that groups of Israeli soldiers are circulating has no place in this world. These soldiers have been inculcated with racist tropes throughout their educational system and then been armed to the teeth and told that they could have complete impunity to act as brutally as possible. It is not an attractive vision for the future. It is, I very much hope, unsustainable due to the repugnance that it will breed. Thank you. Thank you. In contrast, and this is my last paragraph, in contrast, the clips of the veteran journalist Wael Dahdouh going back to work after losing his family in a bombing to be hugged by many adoring children, or the female doctors running to risk their lives through sniper fire to reach their parents, or my good friend, Professor Hasan Abu Sitta, speaking so eloquently and clearly, despite the fact that his eyes were on stalks from shock after the massacre at Al-Ahli Hospital. These create sustainable, endurable messages of heroism, of what we can be as people if we push ourselves to the maximum to assist our communities, to take risks, to show professionalism and humanity. Experience of something beautiful, it is said by Wittgenstein and others, seems to incite others in a way that requires replication. Beauty can assist us in our attention to justice by rendering a sense of fairness, by drawing on the emotional. It can assist us in reaching our rational decisions, to act in a way that can ensure that another sustainable world is possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Selma. Some of us are wiping the tears in the audience. Some of us can't speak the misery and the tragedy that you have just described. Thank you for enlightening us about the tragedy, what's going on. I remember a discussion we used to do in the student life. United Nations is more interested in human rights than human beings. That's a question to be answered today by the United Nations and the nation itself. Thank you once again. And now the turn is awards. G. बहुत लोगों को awards मिले हैं, best writers के, besters के. I'll request Rahila to kindly come on the stage and facilitate some of the awards here, and I'll invite the recipients. If there is any representative from Pharma in the audience, please come on the stage, because the book awards are from KLF-Getz Pharma. Mikhail Somro, are you around? Badi der kar di, meherban aate aate. Mrs. Moniza Shamsi, are you in the audience? Please come up on the stage.
For the English Fiction Prize, it was a great pleasure for me to work with Nadia Chishti Mujahid and Ghazi Salahuddin, and we had a very interesting submissions. The short list, in no particular order, is The Return of Faraz Ali by Amna Ahmad, The Last White Man by Mohsin Hamid, Between You, Me and the Four Walls by Moni Mohsin, and The Bhabis of Lahore by Aisha Muzaffar. And the winner is Mohsin Hamid's The Last White Man. This, the reason we chose, is he here? Yes? Yeah, the reason why we chose this clever and intricate novel is the exploration of race, class, color, and ethnicity in a nameless Western city with a white population where people suddenly find themselves turning brown. And this carefully spare, structured novel is also remarkable for its characterization, imagery, cohesion, and indeed its storytelling. And the personal crisis that the protagonists face is accentuated by daily prejudice and hostility. And this says much about societies the world over, concepts of difference, and indeed the impact of change, including the political crisis that rises, including militancy and disinformation. Many congratulations, Mohsin. It's a terrific novel.
There he is. Congratulations, Mohsin. And may I request you to say a few words and share your thoughts with the guests? Please say a few words.
Hello, Karachi. It's lovely to be back in Karachi. I love this city. I came for the first Karachi Literature Festival 15 years ago, and for the first few after that. And I've always had an enormous passion for the city and for this festival. It was the first literary festival in Pakistan I ever attended. As I was listening to Selma speak just now, And she told us about the tragedies and horrors that are being experienced in Gaza and all of occupied Palestine. But I think many of us can also sense that there's something that's being born, that an old way is dying and something new is coming into existence. The novel that I wrote called The Last White Man is about people discovering that they are no longer white. And in fact, that perhaps they made up being white in the first place. But the issue being raised, I think, right now is that we are discovering that human beings are once again asserting that they are human beings. And a system that has been in place that's convinced us, a system that has come forth from colonial times and continues to exist today, that has used words like democracy and equality and etc., while engaged in mass incarceration and horrible violence and despicable dispossession. We are beginning to see that for what it is. And it turns out that the emperor has no clothes and the world can see it. So although we are talking about horrors, and I think all of us have been affected by what we've seen since October 7th, I hope that what we are also seeing is a birth of a world where the vast majority of the human population can recognize this horrific sham for what it is and begin to aspire to an earth and a human existence where people are treated as humans and where this nonsense and false characterization of who is the aggressor and who is wronged can begin to come to an end. I'll leave it there, but thank you very much for the award and good to see you all. Thanks.
जी उर्दू प्रोज के लिए नासरा ज़ुबैरी आपसे दरख्वास्त है कि आप स्टेज पे आएं और अवार्ड्स का ऐलान करें शुक्रिया Little correction, this is Urdu poetry. जी उर्दू नज़्म और ग़ज़लों के लिए और किताब के लिए नासरा ज़ुबैरी.
Thank you, Shaheen and Rahila, for providing me this opportunity to come here and announce the winner of Urdu poetry. Since the category is Urdu poetry, so I switched to Urdu. सामाईन हाज़रीन, गालिब ने कहा था कि सताइश की तमन्ना न सिले की परवाह गर नहीं है मेरे अशार में मानी ना सही, लेकिन हम आज शायद एक बेहतर और ऐसे दौर में हैं जहां सताइश भी की जाती है और इनाम भी दिया जाता है, और इसके लिए बहुत से इदारे हैं जो ये काम कर रहे हैं, जिनमें एक इदारा वो है जहाँ पे जिनके आज हम मेहमान और मेज़बान हैं। उर्दू शायरी के लिए जो किताबें जजेस के पास आईं वो 27 किताबें थीं, और जाहिर है कि उन सबको पढ़ा गया, उनको जांचा गया और ये देखा गया कि इसमें से जो मुंतखब हुई 3 किताबें मैं वो आपके साथ शेयर करना चाहूँगी। तरतीब मैं इस तरह से ही पढ़ूँगी जिस तरह से कि जो हमारे मुंसिफ़ीन हैं उन्होंने ये तरतीब रखी है। तीसरे नंबर पे ए आसमां नीचे उतर, मोहम्मद इज़हारुल हक की किताब, और उर्दू शायरी पढ़ने वाले समझने वाले जानते हैं कि वो कितना बड़ा नाम है और कितनी खूबसूरत उनकी शायरी है। किताब भी बहुत अच्छी है। दूसरे नंबर पे तजावुज़, ग़ुलाम हुसैन साजिद साहब की किताब, वो भी बहुत सीनियर शायर हैं, लाहौर के रहने वाले हैं और उनके कई मजमूए पहले भी शाये हो चुके हैं। उसके बाद जो किताब मेरे सामने है वो है दुआओं भरे दालान, हम्माद नियाज़ी की किताब है, इनका ताल्लुक़ भी लाहौर से है और ये इनका पहला मजमुआ है। और ये मजमुआ जो है इसका इंतखाब किया गया है आज उर्दू शायरी में पहली मुंतखब किताब इनाम के लिए। वैसे तो हम्माद नियाज़ी यहाँ मौजूद हैं और वो आके चंद अल्फाज भी कहेंगे अपने बारे में, अपनी किताब, लेकिन मैं सिर्फ ये कहना चाहती हूँ कि इस किताब में जो मेरे हाथ में है इस वक्त, दुआओं भरे दालान, ये इसमें गज़ल भी है, नज़्म भी है, आज़ाद नज़्म भी है, नसरी नज़्म भी है और गीत भी हैं। और मेरे ख़्याल में ये जो एक वर्सिटिलिटी है और जिस तरह से इन्होंने एक नॉस्टैल्जिक फीलिंग्स को और अपनी धरती के साथ अपनी जो एक अटैचमेंट है उसको लेके और बाकी जो शायरी के लवाज़मात होते हैं उसको इन्होंने पूरा किया है, तो उस हिसाब से जो जजों की अक्सरियत है उनका फ़ैसला ये था कि ये किताब जो है ये पहले नंबर पे है। वैसे तो तीनों ही किताबें बहुत अच्छी और पढ़ने के काबिल हैं, तो मैं उनको मुबारकबाद देती हूँ हम्माद नियाज़ी को, और मैं चाहूँगी कि वो आके ख़ुद अपने बारे में चंद अल्फाज कहें। ये गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज लाहौर में तदरीस के फ़राइज़ अंजाम देते हैं और ये इनका पहला मजमुआ है, लेकिन इससे पहले एक तर्जमे की किताब इनकी शाया हो चुकी है जो आज़रबाईजान के एक शायर की नज़मों का तर्जुमा है। तो हम्माद नियाज़ी साहब।
बहुत शुक्रिया। मेरे लिए ज़िंदगी में बहुत सारे मौक़े ऐसे आते हैं कि जहाँ पर आपके पास बोलने के लिए अल्फाज कम पड़ जाते हैं। मुझे आज भी अपने मरहूम वालिद की खुशबू अपने आसपास ही महसूस हो रही है। मेरी ये किताब, मेरा हर लफ्ज़, मेरी हर सत्र, हर मिसरा उनकी मोहब्बत से भरा हुआ है और मैं इस कामयाबी को अपने वालिद साहब को ही डेडिकेट करूँगा। मोहम्मद अकबर ख़ान नियाज़ी मेरे वालिद थे और मैंने जो कुछ भी सीखा है उसकी इब्तदा उन्हीं से हुई और इंतहा भी उसी पर ही होगी। यहाँ पर मेरे लिए खुशकिस्मती की बात यह है कि मेरे बहुत सारे सीनियर्स यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं। इफ्तिखार आरिफ साहब बैठे हैं, किश्वर आपा बैठी हैं, अफजाल अहमद सैयद साहब मौजूद हैं, अनवर सन राय हैं। इनकी मौजूदगी में यह अवार्ड वसूल करना मेरे लिए और ज़्यादा खुशनसीबी का बायस है। मैं कुछ ज़्यादा बोल नहीं पाऊँगा। बहुत शुक्रिया।
जी, डॉक्टर नासिर अब्बास से दरख्वास्त है उर्दू प्रोज के लिए किसको अवार्ड मिलता है, किस आप तशरीफ़ लाएं और अनाउंस करें। डॉक्टर नासिर अब्बास। असगर नदीम सैयद साहब, आप तशरीफ़ रखते हैं, बहुत खुशी होगी अगर आप स्टेज पे आएँ और अवार्ड दें। बहुत शुक्रिया।
बहुत शुक्रिया ऑक्सफोर्ड यूनिवर्सिटी प्रेस। ये उर्दू प्रोज का अवार्ड है और इसमें बहुत अहम मौज़ूआत पर अच्छी किताबें तख्लीकी सतह की मौजूद थीं। मैं अपने जजेस मोहम्मद हमीद शाहिद और डॉक्टर नासिर अब्बास नैयर का मशकूर हूँ जिन्होंने इस सिलसिले में मुआवनत की, मुशावरत की। ये 3 नाम हैं प्लीज़। ग़ुरूब शहर का वक्त, ये एक नावल है, उसामा सदीक इसके मुसन्निफ हैं। दूसरी किताब इश्क नामा शाह हुसैन, ये किताब तहकीक भी है और इंटरप्रिटेशन भी है और बहुत सारा और काम इसमें मौजूद है जिसका ताल्लुक़ तसव्वुफ़, मलामत, संगीत और शायरी से है। इसके मुसन्निफ हैं फ़र्रुख यार। और तीसरी किताब, ये एक नावल है हड़प्पा, ताहिरा इकबाल ने इसे लिखा। ये हड़प्पा तहजीब पे बेस करता है। सो बड़ी दिक्कत इसमें हमें महसूस हुई, लेकिन एक किताब ने आउटस्टैंड किया कई पहलुओं से, क्योंकि तारीख में उससे पहले इस तरह का काम मौजूद नहीं। क्लासिकल शाह हुसैन की शायरी और उससे वाबस्ता जो मिथ है उसको उन्होंने रिविजिट किया फर्रुख यार ने, तो इस किताब को अवार्ड जाता है इश्कनामा शाह हुसैन। बहुत शुक्रिया।
ओके, मुनीज़ा नकवी, आपसे दरख्वास्त है कि आप स्टेज पे आएँ और लिटिल बुक कंपनी विनर्स जी इनको रीजनल लैंग्वेजेस में देंगे अवार्ड्स, तो आपसे दरख्वास्त है कि आप स्टेज पे आएँ। शुक्रिया।
मैं इतना तो ज़रूर कहूँगी कि द लिटिल बुक कंपनी जो है वो पाकिस्तान की पहली ई बुक कंपनी है। इट्स द फर्स्ट डिजिटल प्लेटफॉर्म, और ये हमारा तीसरा साल है कि हम पश्तो, सिंधी, बलोची और पंजाबी की लिटरेचर को अवार्ड्स दे रहे हैं। अब आप मुझे माफ़ कीजिएगा अगर मेरे तलफ़्फ़ुज़ में गलती हो जाए, लेकिन शुरू हम कर रहे हैं बेस्ट बलोची जो शायरी की किताब है इस साल की, उसका नाम है इश्का रुलेगा गुनिया। ये हमीद लगारी साहब ने लिखी है और ये अवार्ड उनके लिए वहीद नूर साहब लेंगे।
बहुत शुक्रिया KLF। 2023 की बेहतरीन बलोची किताब जिसका नाम है इश्का रोल्लगे गोने, हमीद लगारी साहब की किताब है। सराइकी वसेब, जिसको कुछ लोग जुनूबी पंजाब भी कहते हैं, वहाँ से उनका ताल्लुक़ है। मैं बलोची एकेडमी के नुमाइंदे शरफ शाह से दरख्वास्त करता हूँ कि उनका अवार्ड रिसीव करें। यहाँ पे इधर आ
और अब जो सबसे खूब पंजाबी की किताब, अगेन माजरत के साथ मेरा तलफ़्फ़ुज़, चट्टी चुबाड़ा, मुदस्सर बशीर की ये किताब है और ये अवार्ड ले रहे हैं मुताहिर अहमद ख़ान। है यहाँ नहीं है? ओके। अगली किताब है पश्तो की, ये है द गस्ती जंग बाय मकाम खटक, और ये अवार्ड वो खुद ले रहे हैं। द गटी जंग। और चौथी किताब जो सिंधी की किताब है वो है बेरंग, जो मुमताज़ बुखारी ने लिखी है, और ये प्राइज़ मुमताज़ बुखारी खुद रिसीव करेंगे। मुमताज़ बुखारी साहब।
बहुत शुक्रिया। Thank you very much for being with us and enlightening comments and remarks that you have been giving. We are really honored, gentlemen and ladies, for being with us. And now, with this, we come to an end of this session, but there'll be a performance by Nighat Choudhry on Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Hum Dekhenge and Bahaar Ayee. So let's wait, and let's wait for this great dance. Thank you.
जब जुल्मों सितम के कोहे गरा रूई की तरह उड़ जाएंगे हम महकूमों के पांव तले ये धरती धड़ धड़ धड़केगी और अहले हकम के सर पर जब बिजली कड़ी कड़ी कड़केगी हम देखेंगे लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे जब अर्ज़े खुदा के काबे से जब अर्ज़े खुदा के काबे से सब बुत उठवाए जाएंगे हम अहले सफा मरदूदे हरम मसनद पे बिठाए जाएंगे सब ताजे उछाले जाएंगे सब ताजे उछाले जाएंगे सब तख्त गिराए जाएंगे बस नाम रहेगा अल्लाह का बस नाम रहेगा अल्लाह का जो गायब भी है हाजिर भी जो नाजिर भी है मंजर भी उठेगा नलहक का नारा उठेगा नलहक का नारा जो मैं भी हूँ और तुम भी हो और राज करेगी खल्क़े खुदा जो मैं भी हूँ और तुम भी हो हम देखेंगे लाजिम है कि हम भी देखेंगे हम देखेंगे वो दिल के जिसका वादा है हम देखेंगे वो दिल के जिसका वादा
da 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 da